Okay. Hi. So first of all, before I get into my point, I want to clarify something because my friend Ilya Borisov said that I have built myself this reputation of being a neuroskeptic or a BCI skeptic or EEG skeptic, and this is very much not the case. On the contrary, I think really it's hard to bet, but I really think BCI, BMI are going to eventually, sometimes down the 21st century, revolutionize humanity in the deepest sense. I really think so. So of course I encourage all the young students to get into this field. What I mean is that right now we are already not a very young field. It's been going around for at least 20 years. So now I think we should forget about all, you know, for me, 15 years ago, or maybe for some of you getting into the field, it's really exciting that you can do something with BCI, that you can put some electrodes and, you know, something works. It's a miracle. But now we are beyond that miracle. We know it works. We know it's difficult. And I just think we have to be very, very careful of how do we want to make progress, where is the most promising directions, and what should be doing with this technology. So this is my first comment. You know what? I really think that it might be as transformative as this. You know, I don't know about you. I think this is an amazing device. You know, it's not just $1 billion or, you know, many $1 trillion of industry. This is transforming humanity. And maybe down the 21st century, BCI will have the same impact. But if I see correctly, I can guess that all of you have a smartphone, maybe Android, maybe iPhone. But I don't see any one of you here in the audience wearing a BCI. I also am guessing that you don't have any implants. So I think that is the perspective. I think this is where it's going to get. Okay. So in that light, I want to suggest something which I call it for now the least obtrusiveness principle, or, you know, I tried to write about it in this workshop that we had on BCI for real. I will say a few words on how this relates to rehabilitation. But so when there are several possibilities to achieve some functionality of BCI, I suggest to use the least obtrusive device. Now this is trivial, but a lot of people are still not taking this advice, so I will repeat it very slowly. Okay, even though I think we would all agree, and this is very trivial. Okay, so, and also, for you, I guess most people here are from a medical background. So for you, it is obvious that the brain is connected to the body. But you have to recall that a lot of engineers, electrical engineers, computer scientists, forget about it. And there's some kind of brain chauvinism to try to get first directly to the brain, where, of course, it's a complex system. And there's a lot of information in the brain. You can find it in other places throughout the body. Okay, so obviously, it's trivial to assume, to know that when we have invasive and non-invasive, obviously we should prefer the non-invasive solution. This is very, you know, there is fantastic work going on, really exciting work going on in invasive BCIs. And of course, in many medical conditions, we know that we don't have a chance to do things non-invasively, and that's fine. But of course, we know that if we have a patient and we can help them non-invasively, they wouldn't go an implant. But the same thing should be said about the non-brain stuff. So again, and this is the difference between basic research, academic research, but a lot of people I know are interested in commercialization. So in academic research, we say, no, we are only interested in brain-computer interfaces. But when you are commercializing these things, I think it would be a failure not to recognize that there are competing signals to take into advantage. So to put it in another way, most often peripheral signals should be preferred to, or, well, with humans we usually have EEG and FNIRS. We don't have too many other methods. And, or even I would say this, okay, so if you are a scientist or a student and you prove to me that you can do something with BCI, this is fantastic. It can be a good paper, it can be promoting science. But if you are trying to make an application, I think given that it's not very easy to use EEG or FNIRS, it's not expensive, but it's obtrusive, right? Not everybody wants to wear EEG all day or even in the hospital. So I think you have to convince me not only that you can do it with EEG, or with BCI, but that you cannot do it with any other technology. Okay? For me, that would be the requirement. And I think this came up during the discussion, the question that Ilya asked Yonichi. with the rehabilitation, again, to isolate the specific contribution of BCI in the whole context of things like virtual reality and electrical stimulation. So again, it's trivial, but I don't see enough of it. Okay. So, no, it's fine. Okay, just to give you, okay, I'll go very quickly. So this is control, this is not rehabilitation, but we worked with 2 ALS patients in the last few years. Unfortunately, both of them are deceased by now from the disease. And they were both very technologically savvy. One of them was a VP R&D before when he got the disease. They did not want to use a BCI. They tried to use it many times until the last days. Even when their eyes were getting tired, they preferred to use an eye tracker. So we did this thing where we put the muse because their eyes were getting tired, but we extract actually the eye and the muscle information from the muse. Okay, so this is not very interesting academically, but this can help people. Okay, next, and this is more related to rehabilitation. I'll give a quick example. So this is what we are working on today is, I would call it next generation neurofeedback. Okay, not necessarily BCI, but feedback. So I don't know how many people here are familiar with the trend of passive BCI. There's people now talking about not direct control, but all kinds of applications that adapt to your brain activity. Okay, so the same comment that I made earlier goes to these applications. So our approach is very simple. I mean, there's a few twists here that I want to mention. Again, a couple of minutes of your time. So the first thing is that, of course, we do sensor fusion. We record. So we are interested in emotional state. We record brain activity, but also peripheral activity, eye information from eye tracking, and then you feed it into a machine learning pipeline. And then, of course, as I mentioned, it's not clear whether for emotional state information, the neural signals are so informative. Even for cognitive state, think about it. Fatigue, things that we know there is information in the EEG, but if we can measure it without EEG, it would be a much more practical product. Again, I think EEG should be used where other things fail. Okay. And I was really surprised here because, we look at skin conductance. If you say EEG is an old technology, it's 100 years old. GSR is 250 years old, right? It's a very noisy signal, lots of... So we let people report their subjective emotional state. Think about it like a dial button. We actually use the VR controller, I will show you. But they give us an ongoing state, an ongoing report, subjective report of their state. And if you look at the correlation between this ongoing report and the raw skin conductance or pre-processed skin conductance, you get a correlation of 0.2, 0.3. You get a correlation, it's low. But if you apply simple machine learning, even with the skin conductance itself, we got up to 0.84 correlation, okay, which in psychology is very high. For emotional reporting, it's like 100% if you get 70 or 80% accuracy. So, and this will be published soon. So, so that's the first point. Okay, to give you a sense how we do it, so this is a project about phobia. So we induce all kinds of fearful stimuli, and the person reports. You can see the scale there. You can see that the person reports with the scale their subjective rating, and this helps us find the neurophysiological correlates of the subjective state. And okay, this is just a sneak preview. The student agreed, this is not a professional video. The student agreed to have this video presented to you. This is how it looks like for the subject. Do we have, we need volume. We need audio. Okay, so we have all kinds of fearful stimuli in the VR, and you see that the subject is relatively relaxed. I mean, there's no indication of fear or stress, but we do have people respond like that. This is true, it's not a fake video. Sometimes they're so excited they forget to update the scale. Okay, this is to remind you also that VR is very effective. Okay, now I will conclude very briefly because this is early stage research. This is what we have been working on in the last year. There's a very short paper, so I can already talk about it. There's a short paper that came out in a workshop in ICML in the machine learning community. I will just give the brief motivation, and then if people are interested, I'm very happy to discuss and consider collaborations. But the idea is this, again, biofeedback, neurofeedback, also I think might be relevant for rehabilitation and closed loop applications other than the ones I showed. So if you think about biofeedback and neurofeedback are protocols from the 1970s, okay? And most of the burden is on the participant, okay? The idea is that the participant has to make a lot of effort, and this is, we know, one of the problems in bio and neurofeedback is that some people are not very good at it. It could be very boring to learn how to regulate. I mean, there's other problems like the ones Professor Kaplan mentioned, but it's time-consuming, it's boring, it's not very motivating to try to control your physiology, is not very easy. And I say, look, we live in the age of intelligent machines, so we are trying to take the opposite direction and then eventually combine them, which is to have the machine learn how to induce certain neurophysiological states in you. Okay, so the machine tries a lot of things in VR. In VR, of course, it's effective. And it learns specifically what frightens you or what reduces your stress. So we use reinforcement learning. Again, we built a simulator. It's a long story here. It's not trivial, but I think it's kind of, for me, it's a new kind of BCI, if you will. This one is not using brain, but it's a new kind of BCI where the machine learns how to make your neurophysiology state. And if you are familiar with machine learning, then you can see that we already have a very clear success. We have a learning curve, and after basically a piece of 10 minutes, the machine can learn what affects your physiology in specific ways. And that could be, of course, personalized, individuals, etc. So I hope my eclectic message is clear. And thanks again for inviting me here, and I'm happy to discuss these things today when I'm here.
Илья, пожалуйста.
Hi, Doron. So you like... I'm kidding. Doron, you like simple tools. And Junichi mentioned functional electric stimulation today, and you maybe remember Xiaoling Hu from Hong Kong. She just discovered her new project about functional electric stimulation and light exoskeleton. So what do you think? What is your opinion on this approach? Because in my mind, it could be too complicated to use EMG, EEG, functional electric stimulation in one device, in one process. So what is your opinion on this simple and very ancient instrument?
No, again, I'm sorry. I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the functional electrical stimulation. I don't want to talk about things that I don't have experience. I'm sure Junichi can address this. Sorry.
Oh, okay, no problem. Thank you.